All right, y'all. We are here with. How would you want to say your name? Where are you? What was your born name?
Okay. My born name is Dwight William Hankins.
And then you went to.
Abdul Shakur. I went through a number of different names, but most people they know me as Abdul Shakur in Detroit and partially New Orleans because I was still Abdul Shakur. We moved to New Orleans.
Now is Honduran.
Yeah, Muhammad Handra.
Muhammad Honduran. Okay, and that's old to your old
To your grandparents. I mean,
grandparents.
I looked up the name of Dwight, and it's of course it's a European name, but it has a good meaning.
Mm-hmm.
It means a light bearer or a light bringer. So I guess before there were electric lights or whatever, they used to bring torches or whatever.
Oh wow!
So it means a light bringer. So I wanted, of course, an African influence. So I taught a professor at UNO
Mm-hmm.
that taught Songhay, which is spoken in Mali, in Western Africa, and in the west part of Mali, they speak Songhay, and he said that in his language, my name would be Handara. So this accomplished both purposes because I honored my parents.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, made the connection with Africa. So.
And you have a granddaughter named Molly.
Well, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Full circle.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you were born in 1951.
Right.
To.
Okay, your grandfather's name was Tommy David Hankins.
Okay.
And your grandmother's name was Gwendolyn Zenobia Broyles. Okay, that was her maiden name. And Zenobia is a East African name, which could be translated into Zainab in Arabic because it's Zenobia. But my grandfather, your great grandfather, he named her Zenobia. He had, almost all of us, when you go back, there's a connection to Africa. We know that.
Yeah.
My father met Marcus Garvey. My maternal great aunt is said to have been his first wife, Marcus Garvey's first wife. So the further you go back, you find that our grandparents and stuff, they had knowledge of African names, although they had to keep it hidden, So, but some of them slipped through.
All right. How many siblings did you have?
At 8.
8.
Mm-hmm.
How many older? How many younger? Where did you fit in?
I was the
fourth oldest.
Mm-hmm. Paula's the oldest, and Judy, then your Uncle Sundiata, then me.
Okay. Were you the youngest boy, or were you?
Oh no.
Yeah, but younger.
You see, your Aunt Althea under me was actually in the middle, because she had 2 older brothers and 2 older sisters, and 2 younger brothers and 2 younger sisters.
Okay.
So after her came Hassan, and then Penelope or Penny. Then came Geraldine or Jerry, your Aunt Jerry. That's who Sadiq stayed with when he was in Detroit. He stayed with Jerry or Tanae. We call it Tanae. And then my youngest brother's named Kim Boyd.
Okay. What about your grandparents? Were you close to your grandparents on both sides, or?
Well, no, I didn't meet my grandparents on my father's side. And I have a vague remember of my grandfather on my mother's side because he died when I was young. But I do have a picture of him in my mind.
Okay.
But my grandmother I was close to. My maternal grandmother, I was close to her.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Aunts, uncles. Did you grow up with your aunts and uncles, or?
No, I mean we knew them all though. I didn't know. I know one uncle on my father's side, my uncle Robert, and I know of my aunt on my father's side, my aunt Rose, but I never met. I met Robert, my uncle Robert. He'd come around,
Mm.
and we him every now and then. But as far as uh, my uncle, my uncles and aunt, well, really would be my aunts and my uncle.
Mm.
My mother had um, 7 sisters and 1 brother.
7 sisters and 1
And
brother.
1 brother, yeah.
Okay.
My uncle Billy was the youngest, and he had 8 girls above him. So
Yeah.
so of course he's the only one left though.
Is he?
Yeah, he's the only one left because my last aunt, maternal aunt, died. Let me see. It's been about it's been about 3 years. My aunt Winifred died about 3 years ago. And before her, I guess it was my aunt Shirley. So anyway, my uncle Billy is the only one that's left.
Okay. What was were all y'all in Detroit, Michigan, or
For the most part,
family from Michigan?
yeah.
I know something. I heard your grandfather that he was from Alabama. Maybe came from.
No. As
I
far
heard
as my
something.
parents are concerned, my mother's from Detroit, but my father was from Vicksburg, Mississippi.
Mississippi. Okay.
Right, although he was born in Arkansas, but they moved to Mississippi, and he moved from there up to Detroit during the Great Migration.
Okay.
He came up in the late 30s. Okay. And so that's where he met my mother, because they were in high school when they met. Okay. And they were there for the great race riot of Detroit. Just like they had the race riots other places, they had them all over the United States.
Yeah.
You know. So, and my mother told me about that. I mean, when they were going through.
What's your earliest childhood memory?
Earliest?
Like I remember when I was 3, and there was, I think I was by grandmother's, my grandma on my own side, and there was like 2 or 3 steps, and I remember tripping down those steps. So that's my earliest childhood memory.
Well, mine is my earliest childhood memory is we lived on a street called 24. I must have been about 4. Yeah, because I wasn't in school yet. Yeah, I remember. I don't remember kindergarten so much as I remember 1st grade. But yeah. The earliest I remember was about 4, and then it jumps to about 6 or 7, something like that.
You just remember the street name of where you were living at 4? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I mean, I remember the house. You know, we were living on 24th Street near Grand River.
Okay.
And, you know, I remember the house. I remember people. You know, we had a boxer. We always had a dog. And we had a big boxer at that time. What was his name?
I don't know, but if you want another one, I got 2 in the back.
No, never mind. I don't have a room for him.
But okay. What high school? I mean, what elementary did you go to?
I went to Stevens Elementary, which is on the east side of Detroit. And it was when I was at Stevens. I got to see John F. Kennedy. I saw him.
He came to Stevens?
No. I was up in. I was in on Burns and Gratiot.
Okay.
Intersection. I was playing in the street, and then the entourage. He was campaigning at the time for president, because this was about 1960. Okay, and he came, you know, the entourage of the motorcade came down Gratiot. I think it was headed to City Airport for him to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I saw him. I looked at him, he looked at me. I was about 10 feet from him.
Wow.
You know? Yeah.
Did you have a best friend in elementary?
Yeah, he was this guy named Victor. We hung out all the time.
Victor, that's
Yeah.
black guy?
Yeah, black guy.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's that name is on the cusp.
Yeah, well, it wasn't too many white folks in that neighborhood, brother. I mean,
So it was pretty much segregated?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, Detroit has some white folks, but they mostly were out in the suburbs. You know, there were a few in the city.
So Victor was your elementary friend, or did
Yeah,
he go
he's
to
my-
middle school?
No, we didn't go to the same middle school because we moved before then, or right around that time. But during elementary, we were good friends.
Hang out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What about middle school?
Played baseball. Middle school was. Let me see. I had a couple of friends. One was named Peter. This guy named Peter Maxwell. He was crazy. Put it this way: Peter Maxwell's role model was Bugs Bunny. So you know it was crazy. He just loved Bugs Bunny and tried to do everything he could do like Bugs Bunny. Okay, but and then there was another friend named Howard in junior high. But we didn't live there that long because we were moving to Northwest Detroit. We were already in Northwest Detroit, but we were moving to another part, Northwest Detroit, to a bigger house.
Did y'all move a lot when you were young?
Well, when I was young, we moved a lot. But once it got to, we moved one more time when Althea was right under me, right before I left for good, you know, to get my own place.
Mm-hmm.
Once I moved to get my own place, all my siblings under me,
They grew up in the same.
they grew up in the same house. They were there until my parents passed.
So, was your first crush in elementary, middle school? Did you start early?
Yeah. Well, I guess it was early. I mean, you know.
Elementary?
Oh, no. Crush.
Yeah, just crush. I had a crush in elementary.
It was junior high, but
yeah. Okay, junior high. So your friend from middle school didn't follow you to high school either?
No. When it came time for me to go to high school, I went to a completely different high school than my friends because they lived in Northwest Detroit, and we moved to. It was more like Central Detroit, but anyway, when we moved there, I went to high school
Mm-hmm.
where we had moved. Okay, and my friends were in high school where we had been.
Okay.
So we went to two different high schools. I still kept contact with them and everything.
Cross paths and stuff
Right.
like that.
Right.
Did you end up hanging with new people in high school though?
Yeah.
Would you consider yourself popular in high school, or
Well,
just blending in, or?
you could say moderately popular, but only because it was a lot happening at that time.
Yeah,
know,
I'm gonna
the
get to
Vietnam-
that.
The Vietnamese War was happening.
Yeah.
Black Power was coming. So, as a family, we were very involved with that.
Because at 16, by the time you were 16, the riots had began.
Well,
In 67.
in '67. Actually, I just turned 17.
17?
But or was it 16?
Yeah, it was 16.
It was 16. But yeah, so and that happened right after we moved to our new house. So
You were 16, so I know that's an age to be out in the streets.
be out in the yeah, and plus again, it was just so much happening. It wasn't like it was just wildness.
Yeah.
You know, there was a purpose to it. You know, so because you were watching the end, not the end, but you were watching a phase of Jim Crow.
Correct.
Because Jim Crow was up north, just like it was, but
Yeah,
down
so,
here,
yeah.
down here was more overt,
Hmm.
but it was still going on up there. So black people were tired.
Yeah, I'm because they contributed to um, a party that was going on for some veterans that came home, some black veterans, and the police came to break it up and arrested like 80 something people at the party, and that they're saying that's what started the riots. But I know that ain't.
No, that
That's
was
probably what the last spark.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I'm sure it was more going on at that time than that.
yeah, yeah. Because it just so happened your Uncle Sundiata was right on 12th Street
Hmm.
at the time it started, and you know he has an interesting story to tell about it. And I was asleep, you know, I was asleep, man, and all of a sudden Sundiata came in and he shook me to wake me up. And he said, look at this." And I opened up my eyes and I looked across the room and I saw an electric guitar, stereo, you know. And we didn't have no money, so I said,
Right.
I must be dreaming. So I went back to sleep and then some noise woke me up. And I looked and the stuff was still there. And then Sundiata comes in with a whole bunch of clothes and stuff in his hands and he flops down on the couch and leaves to go. He said, "Come on, man, there's a riot up on Dexter." So we hit the streets and that was it. We was gone for 2-3 days. Well, not that long, but we were in it.
But okay, but this was in the middle of high school. You were 16 years old. You probably was what,
Yeah,
10th
it was-
grade,
right.
11th grade,
Something like that. Yeah, it's still in high school. So it carried on in the high school because we organized different black groups in high school.
Was your high school all black or
No,
was
it was about half and half.
half and half? How did
Yeah.
how did that work? Were the whites supportive? Or did
Generally
they
speaking,
understand?
generally speaking, the white people were there were supportive.
Okay.
Yeah, they were. I mean, and we ended up forming alliances and hooking up with black activists in other high schools. So that's how we met people from all over the city
Hmm.
because we were doing we had the activism in common. So that's how I got into it. And it's also how I got into theater too, because there was a black theater on Dexter that John Paula was involved with, because she was a writer and a choreographer. So it's
Were they any when did the Vietnam War end? That was
that was later. After Nixon.
yeah. So I was thinking, did you have any concerns of being drafted or anything like
Oh
that?
yeah, when the time came, which for me was the very next year, because they generally drafted you around 17.
Around 17.
Yeah, so I had to go down to the draft board and everything. I went down there with my father, but I got a physical discharge
Okay.
because of my eye,
Yeah.
so they wouldn't take me. I got a F4. That's what they called it.
Okay.
So I didn't have to worry about the drafting, but all my friends did.
They all got drafted?
If they did, yeah. Well, everybody gets drafted. What you got to do is when you turn 18, you had to go down and register,
Okay.
and they give you a draft card. So.
But that doesn't guarantee you going.
That doesn't mean you're going anywhere. It just means that they know how to contact you if they want you to go.
Okay.
So.
All right.
So but I didn't have to go. And as it turns out, my friends didn't either. And we sort of found out that the reason that they didn't call them was because of their activities.
Okay, they were watching.
They
and
were
stuff.
watching us and
I
stuff
was like, nah, we don't want them out there.
and that's what they told. Like one of my good friends,
Mhm.
Kenyatta, he was going down to the draft thing the next day, and I was worried about him. I said, man, I don't want them to draft me.
Right.
And he came back later on that day. I was smiling and everything. I said, what happened, man? He said, oh, yeah, they said we can't use you. I said, okay. And he said he got out. That was it. So.
So, high school, by then I'm sure you're dating. Or were you dating in middle school?
Well, yeah, it was in middle school. I had a relationship with a young woman, and we ended up having a son. I think I've told y'all this.
You somewhat did, but it's always been cloudy.
Okay. Yeah, no, we had a son and gave him up for adoption.
Okay.
But I was only 16.
Did he have a name or?
Yeah, he was named Dwight.
Okay.
but I don't know if they kept that name.
Yeah, they normally
Yeah,
do.
you know.
As far as I know, yeah.
Right. So, that was it.
So you don't know.
No, where it was, because he was born in '68. So
What was her name?
well, her name was Denise.
Denise.
Yeah, but
How did the parents take that? Your parents, both parents.
well, like they do anytime. I mean, anytime there's you know, a child born out of wedlock,
Mm-hmm.
and see, in those days that we were on the cusp of when that was unacceptable and when it
Yeah.
started to be more accepted. It was never acceptable. I mean, they wanted, but they stopped making a fuss about it um, around that time. Like when older generations, like maybe with John Paulus and the youngest of my aunts and uncles, it was starting to be accepted more. No, and by accepted, I don't mean that they embraced it. I mean, is that they knew it was going to happen. I mean, it wasn't, it wasn't a shock, put it that way. But that's that. I was on
Well, y'all,
16.
Did you grow up religious? Were you religious?
Not
Were your
particularly.
So your family wasn't religious?
No, we went to Lutheran church because my grandmother was a Lutheran. She raised, she would take us to the Lutheran church, and we would take place in youth activities.
Okay.
But basically my parents
Your
just
father wasn't.
no, they told us one day to say, look, that's up to you.
Okay.
It's whatever religion you want to be, that's up to you. If you don't want to be religious, that's up to you. So that's the way they put it.
Okay. All right. So moving. Okay. So that was middle school. How long did y'all continue having a relationship, or that was basically the end of it? Because around that time, I don't know if abortion was even something that was even.
Well, there were abortions, and you could get one if you knew what the hookup was.
Okay, but it wasn't like
It wasn't legal.
Planned Parenthood or anything.
No, there was none of that. That was later. I mean, there were abortions available.
Yeah.
But you had to know. Of course, you had to pay, but
Yeah.
you had to know.
Okay, so and were y'all still in a relationship in
Well,
high school, or that pretty much ended?
That ended the relationship as far as I was concerned, but not as far as she was concerned. But the thing about it was, and I think about this often, as far as what I understand now about Islam, she was right. Her thing was, look, I want to get married. Let's do this. So on, so on, and so forth. And I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And in a way, she would have been ready. See, because women mature more than faster than men do. I think that there's probably a 7-year gap between male and female. That a 15-year-old girl, young lady, has the maturity of a 22-year-old man. In other words, it takes him he has to be at least 22 years old before he understands things the way that she does.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, so when she's 15, she knows what a woman is. She knows what a woman does. She knows what she wants. So on and so forth. And so that's what I mean when I say that she.
So you were around what, 16?
I was 16. So
you probably was 9 in maturity.
Yeah.
Compared to her. Compared to her.
Yeah, I'm saying, and practically, I couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
At 16, you can't work. I mean, you can. I had gotten jobs like as a busboy. But your career doesn't start at 16. For a man, that's what it takes. You have to start a career But a woman at 15, 16 years old, she's a woman. You know, anything you throw at her, she's got it. In other words, and what she doesn't have, she can consult with older women. You know, so she was more prepared for it than I was. You know, so
So how was Detroit in the 60s?
Detroit had the highest number of single home owners in the world, black single home owners,
Okay.
because it was so much work. There was people who were either at the well, mostly they were at the Ford. They were at the car companies.
Yeah.
You know, you could get a very, very good paying job at the car companies
Without having any college experience.
without having any college or anything. You just show up, they'll put you to work. They'll teach you a trade, all of that. Because the automobile thing was not only booming at that time, but it was centralized. See what happened around, I guess around the 1980s, 85, they started decentralizing the automobile industry. So
Other places wanted a piece of it.
they wanted a piece of it. They started, and the companies here started building factories overseas.
Okay.
Before, at that time, they used to build everything in Detroit or in the United States and then ship them overseas. But then they saw what an expense that was, and the people overseas wanted a piece of it too. So they started building plants overseas. So that decentralized it. So the jobs really went down.
Decline.
Yeah.
But when I looked up this, like Detroit in the 60s, I mean, people were saying it's like the best place to be.
Oh man!
Like they thought, like people would say it was the number one place in the country.
Yeah.
Music wise, because you had, what was
Detroit
going on.
was the richest city in America.
Yeah.
People can't believe that. They
I
think
know.
it was New York or Chicago, LA. No, it wasn't. It was Detroit.
Yeah.
And so what you had was all these beautiful homes
Mm-hmm.
that were single family, and you have that all over Detroit.
Built the middle class.
For middle class. I mean, we never, except for very short periods of time, we never lived in a small house.
Mm.
We always had a house, sometimes with 3 bathrooms, 4 bathrooms. You know what I mean? 4 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms. I mean, and so that's the mentality that people had. You know, so, if but then, it changed right after the riot, really.
Riot ended when? Was it
67,
so
and then you had another one in 68 after King was killed.
Yeah.
So, but then it gradually came back. But that was around the time it came back was when they started phasing in the other places. They started decentralizing the automobile.
So you were out of high school by what? By
68.
68.
Yeah, but I left. I didn't finish high school. Only time I got my high school diploma was, I went and took the GED.
So what was after high school?
Well, it was so much going on
This
at that
between
time.
68, between 68 and 70.
Well,
The 2 years span.
yeah, and that's in that time, that was the height of the Black Power movement.
Mm-hmm.
We had joined the Panthers. Everybody was involved with trying to organize in some way or another. Either organize laborers, because I worked with the labor unions. Everything centered around, organizing for black people.
Yes.
And the workers. So during those years, that's what I did. I had about 2 or 3 different organizations I was working with. And I was staying, first I had my own place, and then I moved in with your Aunt Paula. Okay. And your Aunt Judy, she was there too.
Everybody was still in Detroit?
Yeah, everybody was still in Detroit. Now, what happened was your Uncle Sundiata moved to Ohio. He went to Wilberforce University.
Okay.
That's a black college. He went to Ohio to Wilberforce for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. Well, that was later because Althea moved to New York. But she went to Lansing. First she went to med school up in Lansing. When she finished med school, she
moved to New York.
New York for a residency and stuff like that. So,
so those 2 years you was basically organizing.
right.
Oh, okay. So how was the 70s? The 70s. By then you were 19.
Yeah.
By 70.
And see, by then, two significant things that happened. One, I went to Cuba.
Was that between them 2 years or
yeah,
in 70?
That was in 69.
69.
Actually, I went to end of 69, beginning of 70, because we were there for, November through January. Okay.
You went to Cuba?
99 to 70, yeah. And more than anything else, that changed my life. It changed my perspective of things. Because we went to a socialist country. It was completely different than what we were used to. Okay. And I went there with a little over, it was around 200 Americans that went at the same time.
Okay.
So we ended up meeting Americans from, okay. We ended up meeting Americans from all over the country who had come, and we were there to help them for the sugarcane harvest. And we went to show solidarity to the Cuban government and so on and so on and so forth. But just being there and seeing it and meeting the people and being in the Caribbean, and it was a completely different world. I grew up in Detroit. It's like I went from being in Detroit to being in Havana, Cuba in 1 week. That's how it was.
How long did you stay out there?
We stayed over almost 2 months, but the thing was, they just showed us the place, showed us how to cut sugar cane, and then basically they said, look, just go on and meet the people, see what it's like, and so, that more than anything else changed my life. That was the first thing. The second thing that happened was I got in hair. As soon as I got back from Cuba.
You got in what?
In hair. Hair was the most popular musical in the world at the time.
And what were you doing in hair?
Singing and dancing.
Singing and dancing?
Yeah. So I had to lead, the black lead in hair in Detroit, because it was all over the world. And it was one of those things, one of those flukes. It's like I came back from Cuba, and then my sister Paula, she always kept up with what was happening theatrically. So she said, look, there's this musical here that's holding auditions. Why don't you go down there and audition for it? I said, sure. I don't have any money or anything. So I went down there and did my little thing, and they said, okay, come back for a second audition. And then I went back for the second audition, and then they said, come back for a third audition. So then, after the third one, I got in. And what was really funny, because your Uncle Sundiata got in, he came down to see my final audition. He didn't know what he was going to do. He wasn't going to do anything. He was just there with Paula and a couple of friends. So they just came to see me audition. Mm-hmm. And so when you audition, it's very cold. It's just like
no, I don't like you. Or,
yeah,
no.
That was it. I mean, what they did, and I think they had a bell. So, they had a cow bell or whatever it was. They had a big bell. And you got on the stage. They lined you up. They said, okay, black guys up on the stage, white guys up on the stage, black women up on the stage. So that's how they called everybody. That was it. So they all black guys up on the stage. So, and because all the people who were watching us were from out of city. They were from New York.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they had that cold New York mentality. So somebody would get up and say, "Okay, your turn," and somebody would start singing, ding 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 ding, thank you. That was it. He would sing for about 30 seconds, and that was it. After 30 seconds, they knew whether they wanted you or not. You know what I mean? So I got up there and did this thing, and they ended up liking it.
What did you sing or dance?
Yes, I sang.
What song did you sing?
It was something from another musical.
Okay.
Okay, it was from a black musical that they would not have known about.
Okay.
You see, that was the thing, because that's I told Paul, well, they told me to come back to audition. She said, "Well, sing this," and it was a song from a musical that I knew.
Okay.
But it was a black musical, so those white people were not gonna know it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you would have to listen to see what the song was, because if they knew the song, then they would know it.
Right, right.
So their attitude was different. So they listened to it all the way through. And when we got through, we were still standing there. They said, "Okay, so and so step forward," and then they called another guy. "So and so step forward," and so you either were in or you were out. That was just the way it was. So they had about three or four of us black guys that stepped forward, and the lady looked around the auditorium and said, "Anybody else want to audition?" So your Uncle Sundiata said, "Yeah, me." So he went up on the stage, played his harmonica. They said, "Oh yeah, we like you," and they put him in there.
Oh wow.
That's how. Because Sundiata couldn't sing.
Right.
I said, "What this guy gonna do?" See, and they didn't know he was my brother.
Right.
You know what I mean? I said, "What this guy gonna do?" So he got out there, said, "Yeah," started stomping his feet and put out a harmonica, started playing the blues. "Oh yeah, we like you," and then they put. So we told him about a week or two later. I said, "Well, you know, that's my brother." He said, "Really? Far out?" You know, he didn't care. So
that was the second significant thing.
that was the second significant thing, and I was in there for like 9 months. We were in there.
So what did y'all do in here? Like travel to different cities?
No, we were based in Detroit. So each major city had its own cast. Okay, and then they had a traveling troupe for minor cities. So
people would come out and watch y'all.
they would come out and watch it. They had us.
What's your largest crowd? You can remember?
It was filled. It was filled. I mean, we were at a theater that must have held, I want to say about 500 people, but
Were you be in the front, or would you just fade in the back? How does that work? Or
no. It was a musical. You can go online and see it.
Mm-hmm.
But we had speaking parts, we had singing parts. They break into a song, but it was a rock musical.
Okay.
You see what I mean? So we wasn't singing nothing like Oklahoma. No, man, we was rocking the whole time. And the thing was, the Motown band played for us.
Oh wow!
So when they wasn't recording,
Mm-hmm.
their second gear was to come and play for Hair, and our performance didn't start till 7 or 8 in the evening, so they had plenty of time to get down there.
Was this a paying gig or?
Yeah, it was paying.
Okay.
Yeah, it was paying. Again, Hair was one of the top. It was the top musical in the world at the time.
Okay.
So yeah, man, I ended up flying all over the place, and
You wasn't nervous to get in front of?
No, I had been on the stage before. Yeah, I had been on the stage before. I had been in musicals, in a black musical, at a black theater in '68. Yeah, in '68, and I had been in the drama club when I was in high school. You see, so I had theatrical experience, so it wasn't no thing. So when it got to Hair was in '69. I had already been on the stage in one form or another for about 2 or 3 years, so it wasn't new to me. And plus, but the other major thing that Hair taught me was about the world of white people.
How is that?
That was it, because these were white people with money, Sully. And I learned from there that black people don't have money. I don't care how rich a black person you are, with the exception of maybe Oprah.
Yeah.
And she's relatively new. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
I said, wait a minute.
They have money.
It's a big difference between money and money. And that's what them white folks had. They write the $1 million checks and and you meet the guy that owned the theater where we had the show, and his family owned theaters all over the United States. That's the type of money that they were raking in. They were on Broadway, and I got to go to the United Nations. The producer of Hair funded it was called the International Children's Day. If you Google it, you probably come up. International Children's Day of 1970, United Nations.
I looked that up.
And every tribe, which is what they call all of us, because we were supposed to be Indians, quote unquote, every group sent a representative to New York, you know, to attend this UN conference on the welfare of children. So they chose me to go from Detroit. So yeah,
You were the only one they chose?
no, I was the only one. Every tribe.
So you were like the representative.
That was the representative of Detroit.
Okay.
So and yeah, man, shoot, I had a ball. You know, they put me in a hotel, and I mean, look, the difference between money and money. I mean, so they said, well, the car will be here to pick you up at 6 o'clock or whatever it was, 6:30, whatever. And so all of us were supposed to go see a performance of Hair by the New York cast.
Okay.
So I go outside around 6:30 for the car, and this Rolls Royce pulls up. You know what I mean? And they say, "You Dwight?" I said, "Yeah." So I got in the car, and there was a couple other, people from other, tribes. And I said, "Where you from?" "We're from Toronto." "Where you from?" "You from?" So we ride to Broadway. We get out in the Broadway, in front of the Broadway theater, and there's a red carpet, man, and crowds on both sides, man, and they cheering us. Yeah. And they hadn't prepared me for that at all, man. I said, what the heck? And I'm looking at everybody and them waving, okay, hey, how y'all doing,
Were you in a tux or something?
No, I was just dressed in my regular clothes. And so, we go into the thing and we watch the show. It's the same show as ours, So at the end of every show, they would call the audience on the stage just to party. You know what I mean? That was the end of the show. So, but what they did for that one, they called all of us by name first.
Okay.
So we went up on stage and yes. So afterwards, we go to the after party, of course, and meet everybody. And about a third of the people there are famous. You know what I mean? So it's like when you're in that type of crowd, everybody intermixes.
Okay.
Everybody intermixes. Okay. Like the guy on Walking Dead, that's one of the head vampires.
Yeah.
He was my director.
Oh wow.
You know what I mean? I see him all the time. That's I told you I knew Philip Michael Thomas from Miami Vice.
Yes. Yeah.
I met all these guys before they were famous. You know what I mean?
Were they on here or they were just?
No, what they did. Well,
circles?
Philip had been in here in New York.
Okay.
But let me see who else. It was Meatloaf was in it.
Okay.
He was in here, and there's a picture of your uncle Cindy out there. You can
I had to check all of that stuff.
Yeah, there's a picture of me and him singing. You know what I mean? And
So what did he do? Did he play his harmonica the whole time?
Who?
Your brother.
No, he never played it again.
So he actually was singing.
He was like there singing and dancing. He was acting like he was singing and dancing. You know what I mean?
Were y'all lip singing or?
No, it was real. It was
Okay.
live.
Okay.
But it was like partying for yourself. I mean, and you met all these people.
That's what I wanted to ask you. Guy question: did they have groupies for him?
Oh yeah, they had groupies after a while, because when you're in something and you're quote unquote famous, that draws all types of people.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons I left it. Being in here convinced me to not go into
that type of
thing, because it just wasn't me.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, after the Hair closed down, they was getting ready to close.
What year was this?
It was the same year. It was in '70. The producer came up to me and said, "Well, you want a tour? We got a tour going out. Do you want to be in it?" I told him no.
Okay.
Because I just knew. Some said no, it's not for you.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's the whole gambit. That's what I was trying to. Who was it? Shajad. I was talking to Shajad. I said, "Look, everything that you see in movies and all of that stuff about the life of the theater,
Yeah.
what goes on behind the scenes. All of that's true. And it's even worse.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's worse. So look, and you have people and you meet people, which is one of the reasons that I left, is because you started meeting people who you knew. The only reason they wanted to know you was to get connections with somebody else.
Yeah.
They had no interest in you, and they were full of smiles and everything. And then you had the people who would do anything to get in the theater. Anything. Sex, money, all of it. They start coming your way. And so, and then the whole thing about the theater is a narcotic. And there's no getting around it. You know, and you can fight it, you can fight it, you can fight it. And so finally you accept it for what it is and you either deal with it or you don't. That's what a lot of people who are in the theater, their closest associates are people that they knew before they were famous.
Mm-hmm.
You see, because if you get real popular, it gets very hard to tell a true friend. You know, because you meet them and you don't know them.
You don't know their motive.
You don't know their motive.
Right.
And it's a whole thing, and not to mention what was that musical, the Royal Degree Praise, the smell of the crowd is supposed to be the other way.
Mm-hmm.
The smell of the degree praise, the roar of the crowd. It gets addictive.
Yeah.
You know, it gets addictive. You get used to being up on that stage, man. And
that's what Jay-Z had a line that said, fame is the strongest drug known to man.
It is.
He said it's stronger than heroin.
You know, and
something about looking in the mirror and say, "There I am," but don't see what you became.
Right.
You know?
No, it's hard. It's hard. And see, you don't have, unless you have family, a tight family. Okay. That's going to help you. You know,
people to keep you grounded.
People to keep you grounded, and it's a and that's just it. It's a need to be grounded, and anybody that thinks it's not is already gone. So I just went on and finished it, and I talked to Sundiata about it. You know, we talk from time to time, and the thing about him is Sundiata stayed in the background. When he was there, when he was in here, he requested to get hired as a stage manager. You see what I mean? Because he didn't want to be in front of the crowd all the time. I mean, he enjoyed it and he performed it, but after a while, just like he is today, he's not performing. Every now and then he'll go to a club and play his congas. But other than that, he's behind the curtains. He's in the booth. You know, so that. But the other things that are happening with just learning how white people live. I remember we went to this party in Chicago, and I flew there, and the party was at Dan Aykroyd's house. Okay, and he was there with John Belushi and a bunch of other people. Now they weren't famous then. This was a year before the first year of Saturday Night Live. Saturday Night Live started, I think, in '71, and this was in '70, probably near the end. But anyway, we were at their house, and it was, you know, like I said, it was people who were known, people who were famous, stuff like that. But anyway, there were some white girls who were from the Detroit cast. They were there too. Mm-hmm. So I said, "How y'all getting back?" They said, "Well, we driving. You can ride with us." I said, "Okay." So it was me and 3 white girls in the car driving back from Detroit to Chicago. It was during the day, so I was all right. Yeah. But
it's a rest right there.
So we started talking. And then they started telling me about their black boyfriends. I like to fell out. and I told them, yes, you know what? I really wish I had a tape recorder. That's the only thing I regretted. When they let me off somewhere in Detroit. And I said, man, I really wish I had a tape recorder. They said, oh, yeah. He's fine with you when y'all by yourself, but you let him get around his black friends. He act like he don't know you. And I heard this from Chicago to Detroit, about 4.5 hours, all the different scenarios. I had no idea. I was just cracking up. I was in the back seat. So you know, and it just getting to know them. I mean, there was so many different instances we went by his house. Like, you know, it's really interesting because with John's on TV all the time. I see him on different programs all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That the guy was directing. Him and Meatloaf, I think, were probably the closest of the white people that I got to. And which is really something, neither one of them were from Detroit.
Okay.
Yeah, because Meatloaf is from Texas.
Okay.
He's from here. And John was from California. So, but
That's an interesting mix.
Yeah, it is. And they'd invite me, you know, I'd be invited over to their house and go over there and eat and so on and so on and so forth. And they'd ask me different questions about the black experience, and I would just talk to them. You know, I'd tell them. So, in that way, we sort of got close. But, you know, but it showed me, it's like, wait a minute, it's not, pardon the pun, as black and white as people think it is. It really isn't. And there are a whole lot of nuances to the white world. I mean, like, I'll give you an example, and then I'm going to go. Being beautiful, beauty in the white world means a whole lot more than it does to us. The white women are so defined by how they look, you know, and it crushes them if they don't look a certain way. It's maybe a little less now. Two things happen around the time of around 70.
Mm-hmm.
Two things happened. One was white people, American white people especially. I can't say that for all white people because in Europe and in Canada they're different, but they couldn't dance and beat.
Yeah.
They were, you know, they just couldn't dance. But
just couldn't do it.
They couldn't do it. So, but what happened was I noticed years later, it started to change because white people and black people had danced together for a while. You know what I mean? Because you know, I was watching Erica dance one day, and she danced like a black chick.
Yeah, I realized that.
I mean,
it seemed like white women have more rhythm now than white men.
Right, because they dance with black people more often, and they dance with black women more often. Because you know how you go to a party, women grab each other and start dancing with each other.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So that does make sense.
Yeah. But I saw it with that beauty, you know, dealing with those white women, and like if a white woman comes in the room and she's very beautiful, the other white women is like they would back up, like, you know, I can't stand next to her, you know.
And you don't think it's that in the black world?
I think it is, but not to the extent.
Not to that degree.
Not to that degree, because a sister walk out with curlers in her hair.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the thing is, the sister knows that she's fine. Mm-hmm. So she don't care that there are curlers in her hair. But a white woman would never do that until later. Now, more lately, they started doing it.
Like, there's this big thing about black women wear bonnets that Monique came out saying that they need to stop doing that, wearing bonnets in public and stuff like that, or curlers. Well, they don't do the curlers anymore.
Okay. Okay.
But the bonnets, they have these bonnets on in public, and she was like, they need to stop doing that. Mm-hmm. So she's getting backlash for that. But
okay.
Anything telling a black woman what to do, you know.
Yeah. You can't tell her what to do. That's just the way it is. So, do you ever watch Tommy Sotomayor?
Sound familiar. I think I have.
No.
I think I have, but I'm not sure.
You haven't watched Tommy Sotomayor, because if you watched him, you'd remember him. So what I'm saying is, maybe you have a long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Okay,
I think maybe you.
I think I might have told you about it. Mm-hmm. Visit him.
Well, now it's Kevin Samuels.
Okay.
He's the new guy.
He's the new guy. What is he talking about? White women, black women?
Yeah, and they hate him.
Oh, okay.
Well, not all of them, but the majority of them.
He took up what Tommy left off.
Yeah.
But Tommy, he'd get on him about that. But the point is that, you know, black women had a certain way about them. Mm-hmm. But white women, that's when I learned when I was in here, it's like, you know, it crushes them in regards to how they look if they don't look right, quite, quote unquote, right.
That makes sense.
It's much worse than with black women. Okay, black women are more likely to accept themselves as they are. Now, lately, black women have gotten into this whole whitening their skin thing. I saw, who did I see?
Well, I don't want to go too far down that road because if any of them watch it, mainly our sisters. And
okay, but no, I ain't worried about that. I ain't worried about it. We can talk. But it's like, hey man, come on now. You gonna lighten up your skin.
They're doing that a lot.
I saw somebody on TV, and at first I didn't recognize her because she was almost white.
Yeah.
And I hadn't seen her in a while. I said, wait a minute. And then I looked at her and said, she looks like a monster. She looks like a monster.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't have to do that. I mean,
well, colorism is, that's a big thing.
But that goes way back. I mean, really, that goes back to the 30s.
Yeah.
Black people whitening their skin, but see, now they had the chemicals to really do it.
Yeah. It's widespread now.
Oh, man.
It definitely is.
Wow, it's crazy.
And when they choose makeup, it's always going to be something that's going to lighten them.
It's going to lighten them. It's terrible. And this other thing about that they feel like they got to be rail thin, broom handle thin.
Well, I think that was more of models in the 60s, 70s. Because what Kim Kardashians and the Kardashians...
Yeah, she did it. And she ain't black.
Has made white people think they can,
Yeah, but then the black women,
curvy.
you looking at them, they the ones that look thin as a rail now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean...
they got the sunken chins and everything. You say, wait a minute, dear, you looked okay like you were.
Yeah, I mean,
but,
the standard of beauty, it's always changing. People have always...
But that's when I learned how important it was to them. Because, what I think about that? Because that's not my environment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I never thought about it. And so once I got in here, and then I noticed how the importance that they gave to it. It was more than just putting on makeup. It was like being accepted. You know what I mean? So I was like, wait a minute.
Because when you grew up, you didn't grow up in a
mixed neighborhood. No, yeah, I mean, it was.
So your exposure to white people was mostly then. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I knew white people, but it wasn't that many of them. I mean, so they came and
this is where you really.
That's when I really got to intermingle with them. I got to go to their houses, and it's like, and so I got to see them, and it was like, wow.
What you really find out is people are just diverse and different, even within white groups and within blacks.
Yeah, I mean, right.
And money does play a big part.
That's it. Look, when I was leaving the after the after party at the hair thing in New York. The next day we went to a party up in St. Regis Hotel in Manhattan.
Okay.
And matter of fact, when I see that movie, The Devil Wears Prada, they have a scene.
That's where they were.
They have a scene in that. I said, yeah, that was the place we were. Anyway, we were in the penthouse, and I decided to leave early because it wasn't nothing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I wasn't getting high at the time, so everybody was getting coked down, reefer down. So I said, well, I'm gonna go. I stayed for a little while, then I left. So anyway, on the way down in the elevator, there was this guy, this middle-aged guy, and he had this real young chick, hanging all over him. Oh yeah, baby, baby, baby. So I knew what that was,
Mm-hmm.
But I knew him. He was the head producer of hair internationally.
Okay.
He owned an airline. You know what I mean? This is the type of money these people had. So anyway, we just started talking, and I told him, I said, look, the rich people. And I was talking to him, but not about him necessarily. I said they're so busy with being rich, watching over their wealth, that they don't have time to relax. Here I'm talking to probably a billionaire.
Mm-hmm.
And he knew what I was saying was true. And he said, yeah. He said there needs to be a reward system other than the accumulation of capital. He said because the accumulation of capital in and of itself is not a reward.
Mm.
And
That's deep.
and that was one of the things that the very next year I became Muslim, and it
So
always
you
stuck in
became
my
Muslim in 71?
71.
Okay.
So that always stuck in my mind. I was like, huh, this guy is rich. He got it all.
So you was 20 years old.
So I was 20 years old, and so then, but then I thought about it. I said, man, and this chick was hanging all over him, and he knew why she was there.
Mm-hmm.
She was using him, and he was using her.
Yeah,
You
we
know
see
what I-
that all the time.
You know what I mean? So it was like, okay. So these are things, the few things that happened to me in a short amount of time that solidified my idea concerning those types of things.
So you said, well, I'll get back to that. But when so through your teens, you never used drugs or nothing?
No.
Because you said at the time I wasn't getting high.
Right. No, I was the last person I knew to get high. I was the last person I knew. I never drank.
Okay.
I never drank. Muslim, non-Muslim, I never drank. And the reason is that I just didn't like losing control.
Okay.
That was it, you know. It was funny because I used to like the smell of marijuana, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't smoke it.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I burned it for incense. Okay, I burned marijuana. I didn't know I was getting contact high, but anyway, I burned the marijuana for incense, right? And your Uncle Sundiata and my friends, they would come and say, "Man, you ain't gonna smoke that." You wasting that good reefer, man. You better let us smoke that. And I said, "No, man, y'all ain't letting y'all smoke it." And then it finally hit me. I said, "These guys are gonna cause me bodily harm." I said, "I better let these guys smoke it." Because they were really angry.
Just letting it go to waste.
They wasn't pretend angry. They were angry. I said, well, y'all going.
We're going to smoke that by any means.
By any means. We got to throw you out, literally.
Thinking about any means. And what was your take on Martin and, I don't know why everybody joined both of them together, but Malcolm X?
Well, I was still young, because when King was killed, I was 17. And
But that's when the second riot started.
That's when the second riot started. And Malcolm had died 4 years before that.
Before that, okay.
So I was only, about 13 when he was killed. So
did you understand?
Well, I understood it, but I wasn't exposed to what the difference was between the Nation of Islam and Islam. I mean, I knew people in the nation. As a matter of fact, I even went over to the temple because the temple number 1 was on Linwood in Detroit.
So when you in 71 when you became Muslim, it wasn't Nation of Islam?
No. Alhamdulillah, I went straight to what they call Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah.
Because at that time, if you were black and Muslim, everybody automatically believed.
Yeah, because
you might as well have the bow tie on.
Yeah, you're gonna have a bow tie, or you were with Muhammad Ali or Malcolm after the bow tie.
Right.
But no, there were plenty of black Sunni Muslims at the time. They just weren't popular.
Well, what led you to Islam? Was it?
Well, a number of my friends were Muslim.
Okay, so
that's what happened, really. Almost all of the friends that I had
were they Nation of Islam or
no, they're Sunni. And most of them were musicians, and almost all of them, as a matter of fact, all of them.
And how did they end up?
They came in different ways.
Oh, different ways.
Yeah, some of them.
Which one had the most influence on you?
Well, it was a couple of brothers. A brother named Sadiq, which maybe you'll meet him one day because he moves to Germany.
Okay.
And this other brother named Abdul Jalil, I play for him all the time. And they.
So this is before you were Muslim, though.
Right.
And they just would talk to you about it.
Yeah, we would talk because
what were you consider yourself at that time?
A socialist. And we get into these arguments and this, that.
It always starts with arguments.
It always
starts
with
convince somebody of something.
Yeah, and they tell me about Islam, and I'd argue about socialism and this. Y'all ain't doing nothing. And that was basically it. We out in the streets. Matter of fact, I should show you. Come on, let's go to the car.
Okay, let me. I gotta end this stream then.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got to the 70s, y'all. Maybe we can get through the 80s. Maybe. We can get through the 70s and then the 80s, 90s, and so on and so forth. Because we haven't even got to you get married. So
Oh, that's a whole nother.